everyone, welcome back to the Curated Shelf. You are joining me on a rainy but okay evening in Brussels. It's gone dark now, but I am 24 hours, we are 24 hours after Storm Eunice hit the country, mostly on the coastal areas. And I just want to say I'm so glad that's over. It was pretty disturbing actually. It was winds of approximately 150 kilometers per hour in the North Sea. The UK, the southern England got badly hit too, as well as parts of France and of course the Netherlands as well. So I'm so glad that we've passed, I think, the worst of it. I know Ireland was hit as well quite badly, but I don't know how much damage there was done there. But yeah, it's been a wild kind of like day yesterday, and I was just saying to somebody via messages. I was chatting with Marine that I was walking past buildings yesterday, and I could hear them creak, and it was just surreal. It was just so surreal, and there was debris flying everywhere. And this morning when I went for a run in the park, we had lost some trees for sure, and it was quite dangerous actually. So, the clear up operation has begun here, but it has been quite a disturbing day yesterday. And today we have a bit of wind, but it's okay. I think the worst is over. So I just want to say, I'm grateful this evening. I'm just going to be sitting in having a quiet evening. But without further ado, let me get on to today's topic. Now, as you can guess from the title, I am going to be discussing when is tarot no longer tarot? And I need to think of the hashtag. I don't want it to be huge, but I want to talk about this because there are things that I'm seeing, trends and so forth, which is making me question things. And I'm saying this as somebody, I've been with tarot off and on for 7 years now. But on top of that, I have a lot of my friends and family are not into tarot. They're intrigued sometimes. Sometimes they're like, we have no interest in it. Sometimes they're intrigued by it. Sometimes they're like, oh, I'd like to know more kind of thing. But what I found really interesting was that because tarot is becoming mainstream, they're also receiving a lot of information from outside, which is great. But sometimes I am a little bit dubious about what is now becoming tarot kind of thing. And it's twofold. One is for me, the tarot person, the person using the tarot deck, the reader is one thing. And on top of that, the actual tarot deck is another. So I'm going to be approaching this in both manners, in a way as succinct as I can. And I see this topic personally as part of a broader series of tarot ethics. And I can explain that a little bit further as I go along. But for me, tarot ethics is not just about when is it right to do a reading, when it's inappropriate and so forth, which are important parts of, I think, being a tarot reader. And also using a tarot deck. But I also believe that, we have, I believe I have a responsibility in terms of mental health, in terms of being genuine and authentic as I can be towards the practice, for being open and informative when people ask me. And also on top of that, also not being myself kind of like, I am the only voice of reason. So this video is done bearing in mind, this is opinion, experience, thoughts. I am not the police. There is no tarot regulator. I live a few kilometers from some of the biggest regulators in the world. And so I know how that system and those thoughts work very, very well. But this is not about being a police and this is wrong and it's bad and that kind of, it's not that kind of video, and it's not an attack on anyone. I just really want to be clear on that. This is about my thoughts because I do believe that there's a responsibility within the tarot world. I do believe that for myself. And then what others do, that's up to them. Okay, so moving swiftly on, I want to first talk about, what I deem as a tarot deck. So I'm going to pull the most famous tarot deck there is in the world, which is, of course, or one of the most famous, I would say, is the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. Now, this deck was created in the early 1900s, technically the early 20th century, by Pamela Coleman Smith, who is a designer, and Waite being the principal kind of like architect in terms of keys and so forth. This deck is part of the Golden Dawn system, and it is composed of 78 cards, and they go through the system of what is known as the major arcana and the minor arcana. I am saying this, of course, because I know some of you are very new to tarot, so just kind of like being really top line in my explanation here. There are plenty of books written about the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, very accessible, from beginner friendly to more in-depth books. I am someone that firmly believes that whilst this doesn't have to be one's only deck, no way, I do believe it's important to be able to know and understand and reference this deck. And the reason I'm going to say that is because I'm now going to draw in my own experience. When I picked up tarot, I was aware of it in my teens, but when I actually really went into it when I was in my, I'm trying to think, how old was I? Early 30s. It was really important because I'm someone that likes to go straight to the jugular. That's the only way I can put it. When I get asked a question, even in terms of my day-to-day work, I don't go into what this association says or what these people say. I go straight for the text that I need to read. I go straight for the jugular. It's the kind of person I am. So, and that's part of the job I do. So basically, when it came to tarot, as much as this deck wasn't the one where I thought, wow, I really love this deck. I mean, it reminds me of Gulliver's Tales, the Land of the Giants or something. This was the deck which I knew that I need to get to know this though. So I sat with the cards. I would spend days with one card, a week with a card, maybe even more. I would read, I would get a book, like one of my favorite books, which can I find it now from the top of my head because it's probably buried somewhere in the back there. Sorry, I've got so many books these days. But let me just grab one for you, so at least you have one that I'm referring to. I would grab a basic book, like this is The Ultimate Guide to Tarot by Liz Dean. There's also Joanna Bunning's book, which is the one that I used, also a fabulous writer. I would get a book like this, which is a basic book, and as I went through each card, I would read what the information is about that card in the book, and then I'd make my notes on it. And you might ask, well, what kind of notes did I make? I would look at things that jumped out at me. So for example, if I've got the Queen of Wands here, one of my favorite cards, of course there's the black cat there, but she also has those two looks like lions, but they're slightly looking towards sphinxes as well on the sides of her. I would look at, right now I'm being drawn to the sunflower. I would look at that beautiful red throne that she's on. I would capture the symbols from that. I would capture, I don't know what here it is. I need to look that back up again. I don't know if that's, looks like a ladybird. But I would literally just take, and absorb these symbols. I would make notes of them and come back a few days later. Of course, doing a day-to-day job, I'm not going to be able to look at this all the time, but I'd come back and think, hang on, am I seeing this blue sky back there? Am I seeing like clear desert lands? And so, what do I see? A woman who I think is young, or would I put her more in her mid-30s? I would really sit with this card, and not because this is the be-all and end-all of my understanding of the card, but it's my connection and my observation of the card. And I found it really important when I was learning to actually sit and try and understand what those cards were about. Like here, the Seven of Swords, we're looking at, getting away with something, but what are we taking with us and what are we leaving behind? And in the background here, this is meant to be the garrisons of a fort. I always saw them as a circus, actually, but that's my own view. But I would make notes like that, and I would look at his little red boots and that kind of thing. His what looks like a fez hat for me. But I would look at all those things, the very yellow nature of this deck, this card in particular, and here for me, the Six of Pentacles, everybody sees it as charity. Personally, I see it as also a form of exploitation. and that is because to do with the medieval times and its relationship with the Five of Pentacles and the relationship also with the Seven of Pentacles. So for me, this card is loaded. But I would take that and I would again look at the book, the basic book, and I would look at kind of like, everything that comes into these cards. The famous Judgment card. I love this card. I mean, that's St. George's Cross there coming out. Very, very Anglo there. We're very much into the St. George's, that Protestant feel. And so I would, and so therefore also for me personally, a connection with, where this stands within the dichotomy of the church. And this deck being made in England, and it's taking now a very interesting walk away from the original Tarot de Marseille and that pip deck. So it's interesting how these cards for me, they evoked memories. I would look at sometimes, her clothing. I mean, she was, I mean, I'm Queen of Cups, by the way, like as a Scorpio, and she always looked a little bit miserable to me. And then I'd be like, I am a Queen of Cups, but they look like the pincers of a Scorpio, but also, to be quite honest with you, they remind me of these very medieval like angels. So on this cup, the arms of this cup here. So I was going to say trophy, because sometimes to me this looks like a trophy actually. But there's the cherubs. There's just so much in this. But I would look at the symbols and I would sit with them, because I knew that as symbols, these are also key parts of their relationship with the elements, their relationship with the planets, their relationship with timing, their relationship with color, their relationship with so many aspects. And if I was to do a reading in the future, these were the clues. This was the map with signposts. So for me, it was just so important for me to get to know it, and to get to understand, what is this system trying to tell me? And so it took me time. But I want to talk about that because for me, this was an integral part of learning tarot. And the other thing about a tarot deck, and I'm going to pick up the other famous tarot deck, Aleister Crowley's Thoth, I don't know how to pronounce it, mass market deck, US Games. This was produced in, I can't remember the year, we're looking at the mid 20th century. It is also a Golden Dawn system. Golden Dawn is a set of people, and I can't go into all of it, but basically these two decks are derived from it. And Crowley took a very different approach well, not very different, I shouldn't say that, but he did take a very distinctive, his own approach to tarot. Now, this deck is in order for a reason, because I'm using it as part of a study, so it's easier for me. But here is the Fool, here is the Magus, and for me, this deck is just a luscious delight into so much symbology, like the High Priestess and that netting. Just today, I was watching Saturnarium and her video, and she was mentioning the netting, and I was thinking of fishnet. So, when I studied this deck, I looked at what Aleister Crowley has to say about his own deck. I looked at what Lon Milo Duquette has to say about this deck, but I also look at the symbols and I make my notes. So when I learn a deck, to be very honest with you, it takes me time. This has been with me for, I think now 8-9 months, and I'm still sitting with it kind of thing, So it's important for me because, let me get to some of the minors. They're also very interesting. Oh, there's the Devil, my favorite card of all time. But even these cards, Dominion, here we go with the Two of Wands, Virtue. So the key words and the way that the symbols are positioned and the coloring and how how these ones are depicted in contradiction to these ones, we have flowering there. These ones, we have here completion. And then he has very, very interestingly put these symbols around there. We've got the doves, but we've also got the Aries ram. So it's just it's just so interesting for me to sit with this deck and absorb these symbols and absorb where it's going for strife. I mean, this is about toiling away. So I love this deck in so many ways because, again, I can take the card and then analyze it and come away with like 20 different things basically. And so again, for me, this has been an interesting part of my foundations with the tarot. But I want to talk about that in terms of like, when is tarot no longer tarot? Because I wanted to give these examples. And of course, I'll just very quickly, we're 15 minutes in already, but I will just quickly pull out the ancient Italian tarot, which is a Tarot de Masse. And of course, this is the original tarot deck that was created. I mean, tarot has evolved over the years, but this is from the mid 15th century. These are the gorgeous backs. This is a mass market Lo Scarabeo deck. And here, this is not in order, I apologize for that. But here we have, again, this very interesting symbology. Here are the pips, which you've now just seen in the Thoth. So numerological in that sense. But again, really trying to understand when tarot was created. So I don't know why these are upside down. You see, this is an interesting deck for me. But when originally tarot was created, justice in her original sense, what the creators back in the 15th century were trying to convey through the map. I have no idea why some of the cards are in reverse. It's very interesting with this deck. I've never had this before. Well, actually, I've had this quite a few times, but I normally don't do reversal, so it's very interesting that this deck has somehow reversed itself. So here we go with the images, and you can get a fair idea of the origins of this deck. But I mention all of this because for me, this was the beginnings of tarot. And lucky enough, in the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, 20 years, tarot has taken on a new meaning, right? We have new decks coming out, systems that are being created, which are harking back to the original system, but they've nuanced it a little bit. For example, we have the Deviant Moon Tarot. It is very much like a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. If we go in there, we will see cards which are very reminiscent of the Rider-Waite-Smith, which I just showed you, the first deck that I showed you. So here we go. Here is the Sun card. Here is the Ten of Cups, a family coming together. Here we have the Three of Pentacles, people working together, working hard. So just me showing you this, I can take the Rider-Waite-Smith, line them up, the keys side by side, and it's very, very clear that this deck really still contains the very original symbology, basically, but just done with a twist. And with Patrick Valenza, who is the author of this deck, creator of this deck, giving his spin on the keys. But when a tarot deck for me starts to move away is, and these are decks, by the way, which I'm not going to beat up because I like them, but it's interesting. It's something like the Hush Tarot. Now, these were images. This is Jeremy Hush's deck. He's the creator. He had made these images before, and then they were added in and made into a tarot deck. So this is pre-created images. I don't know how else to put it. And so this is an interesting deck because sometimes the keys start to vary. For example, here we have the Page of Wands, and for me, it's very, very difficult for me to see how this harks back to the original Page of Wands. Another one here, let me see this one. This is the Three of Wands, sorry, the Three of Swords. This Three of Swords is about heartache. And for me, I'm not really seeing the heartache and putting mind over heart in this deck, but that's my initial thought. Here is the Seven of Pentacles. The Seven of Pentacles is really waiting for the fruits to come in, but that's not what I see here, So again, here we're starting to see, this is the Empress, this is about nurturing energy. This is also about having ownership over the land, and I clearly don't see that. However, by the way, I just want to be really, really clear with you. I read this deck intuitively, and I'm going to come to that in a moment, but this is a really, really good example of when, sorry about the sirens, but this is a really good example of when the system, the deck is very clearly starting to shift away from the system. Now, if I didn't have that Rider-Waite-Smith or that Thoth and so forth, and that Tarot de Masse somewhat study, I'm never an expert. I think we're all learning. I'm learning. If I didn't have that study, I think I would really struggle with this deck. And I know in most videos people say, oh, well, you know, it's not a beginner deck. But I want to go into, when is tarot no longer tarot, or when is tarot tarot? I don't know which way to put it, because this is where it starts to get interesting. And I just want to make sure I'm covering my notes properly. Is that I myself try to be knowledgeable and to keep reading, keep listening to others, learning new things, learning something, you know, it's just, I think it's a good part of my practice to always be growing in that sense. But there comes a point, I mean, another example is, let me give you the Ceccoli, the Nicoletta Ceccoli Tarot. Now, I find this deck really difficult to read because it has moved so far from the system. I think it's a beautiful deck. I think it's beautiful images. And I actually think that they make me think. So I don't want to discount the deck. It's just more how I read the deck, which is going to be interesting. And so here are the images. Just need to push that away a little bit slightly there. Sorry if I shake the camera. But here are the images. And you can clearly see here. Now, this is the Hermit card. Here is the 9. And you can see holding the light there. Okay, we've got some Hermit imagery. Here is the 8. I just want to make sure I'm reading this. I think this is the Strength card. Okay. Here is the 3 of Swords, Heartache. Okay, she's got a pin and a heart. But then we get to something like, I don't know, the 6 of Pentacles. Now, this is about charity and giving. And as I just shown you in the 6 of Pentacles in the original Rider-Waite-Smith, we're looking at imbalance. We're looking at people receiving alms to the poor, that kind of thing. Do I see that here? Not necessarily. What do I see intuitively is a girl with pet mice. So maybe this is about holding ownership and pulling the strings. But I don't know how that relates to materialism in that sense. Okay, I think I'd have to sit with it, but I would get that. 8 of Clubs. This is about communication. For me, I'm not sure if I would be seeing that. Maybe there is. But this is where, and this is again here, this is death. Yeah, I get that feeling. Queen of Swords. Scary. I love the artwork. It's beautiful artwork. And some of them make sense. 6 of Clubs, victory. That does look like victory to me. But you can clearly see now that I am having to really work at lining up the imagery. And so where am I going with all of this? And we're 22 minutes in. You know, this is a deck that I bought when I came back to tarot. Guardian Tarot. Gorgeous deck. Do I feel sometimes the images? Not all the time. This is 2 of Swords, indecision. Holding things close to our chest. Not sure if I see that. Page of Pentacles. Again, gorgeous images, but I struggle. And so and this is the Hanged Man. So the reason why I want to bring this up, and it's a gorgeous deck, is I don't mind reading intuitively. I think you know, if I laid out 3 cards here, I might put some original tarot meaning on the card. I might, you know, 3 of Wands for me is about conquering our lands. I might put in there, I mean, she's got this beautiful necklace on, so it's probably showing the regality of, you know, her conquering the lands. I might add my own spin to it. Moonlight, full moon, seeing through the dark, to conquer. I don't know, you know, I'm just making this up on the spot, but it clearly shows that I would have to do that work. And that's fine too. But this is where the crux of the whole thing comes in, is there are those of us, or some, who today may not be learning the system at all, or maybe learning from these cards, which is fine. But this is where I'm going to spin the whole thing. I am a tarot reader and a tarot user, but I might also want a tarot reading. And if I had not gone into learning the tarot myself, and if I was completely as just a querent, a citizen querent, which I was one day, right, in my life when we were younger, And if I went to a tarot reader, I can never say tarotist, but if I went to a tarot reader and she used this deck, or she used, or he, sorry, or they used this deck, and they had no knowledge of the RWS. So they take 3 cards, they line them up, and they come up with something based upon intuition, imagery. When is that really tarot or not tarot? Because we're no longer within the system that was originally created. It is now going towards what I would say as, and if I want to get this right when I'm pronouncing it, because I always stumble with this, for many years I've stumbled with it, a Rorschach test. When are we going towards a Rorschach methodology, where it's the same as psychology, where we're just looking at ink, images and so forth? And I want to bring that up because if I go somewhere and if I'm, let's say, visiting a professional in an area, for example, getting a haircut or something, or I don't know what else, even going to even if it's, you know, I don't want to go so as deep as the medical profession, but it does touch upon that slightly, because we have here, or I believe I have here, a responsibility towards being true to the original practice. And so if I'm so far off, and if I had not learned what I had learned originally, what am I giving the querent? Am I actually giving them a tarot reading? Or am I giving them just, this is me looking at pictures, creating what I think for you? And I feel firmly that I need to be true to a set of beliefs and values that are true to some set of principles, you know, and I don't believe I hold the ultimate truth. I don't think so. And I don't think anyone does, you know, so this is not to, again, enforce a regulatory or a policing regime. But I ask that because, you know, there is, I am really, really like thinking, you know, people who will go for a reading that I know that are not, you know, they're not clued up in this area. They're struggling, and they want answers, that they want to seek, maybe, what do I need to work on? Can you give me some indication of the energies I'm facing? You know, how can I make a better decision? That kind of thing, you know, so really honest, just asking questions. And if I was not sticking to at least some form of the tarot system and its true, you know, representation of, you know, of what is, I'm just going to grab the Thoth right now because that's the best one I've got over here, but, you know, what is the accurate representation of Ace of Cups, you know, new beginnings in love, or what is really kind of like, you know, Five of Cups. Here it's disappointment. In the RWS, the Five of Cups is, you know, as I just showed, you know, not being able to see, you know, not being able to see that, you know, we might have lost something, but there's still, you know, a lot left there. Now I can't find it to show you, but you get what I mean. I want to ask, when is it a tarot reading, not a tarot reading? So, you know, this is a bit of a long video on one very specific topic, but I think it's a really big topic. I think so. Because, yeah, just because we are so much growing as a community, and as tarot readers, and as people who are coming towards us as well, asking questions. So yeah, and like I said, you know, I don't hold like all the answers or the truth in this. There are some really wonderful tarot tubers out there who I respect enormously, that have so much of a wealth of understanding, and I know that they may have a completely different take on it. So I am also ready to mentally that, you know, there may be a disagreement, or like, no, this is not such a big thing. But I wanted to ask this question because it's been on my mind for some time. And personally, I take it as a responsibility when I am working with someone and helping what I think is helping someone, or giving them guidance, or giving them the bare nuggets, and then saying, you know, these are your choices, and letting them, you know, live their life or whatever, but I feel as a conduit, I have some responsibility in that sense. So I hope this video has been, it's a bit of a ramble, but I hope it makes sense. We're 30 minutes in, so I'm going to stop there. Thank you everybody for watching me, and I will see you again soon. Take care now. Bye.